Welcome to This Day in Time. From May 19 to 25, 2025, we explore 7 historic moments of contrast, war and peace, conflict and progress. From Auschwitz's dark beginnings to Kennedy's lunar dream, let's dive into history's dual nature. On May 20th, 1940, the first prisoners arrived at Auschwitz, marking the start of a horrific chapter in human history. Located in Nazi-occupied Poland, Auschwitz became the epicenter of the Holocaust, where over 1 million people, mostly Jews, alongside Poles, Roma, and Soviet POWs, were systematically murdered. This was no random act of violence. It was the calculated beginning of the Nazis' final solution, a genocide fueled by a twisted ideology. Prisoners faced starvation, disease, forced labor, and the constant threat of execution in gas chambers. The camp's meticulous organization revealed a chilling efficiency, turning humans into numbers in a bureaucratic killing machine. Auschwitz remains a scar on humanity's conscience, a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked hatred and the failure of early international intervention. Its legacy shaped post-war laws on genocide prevention, urging us to never forget.
On May 21, 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross in Washington, D.C., a beacon of hope amid human suffering. Inspired by her work during the U.S. Civil War and her experiences with the International Red Cross in Europe, Barton pushed for a national chapter to aid victims of war and disaster. The organization's first major effort came during the 1889 Johnstown flood, assisting thousands of survivors with food, shelter, and medical care. Barton's vision expanded the Red Cross's mission beyond wartime aid to include natural disasters, setting a new standard for organized humanitarian relief. Rooted in neutrality and compassion, the American Red Cross became a cornerstone of global humanitarian efforts, showing humanity's capacity for empathy even in the darkest times. Its work continues to save lives and uphold dignity worldwide.
On May 22, 1939, the Pact of Steel was signed in Berlin, forging a dangerous alliance between Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini committed to unconditional support in any conflict, formalizing the Axis powers' aggressive ambitions. This wasn't just a diplomatic agreement. It was a prelude to war. The pact emboldened their expansionist goals, directly leading to Germany's invasion of Poland just months later, sparking World War II. It escalated global tensions as nations scrambled to counter the Axis threat. The Pact of Steel symbolized the destructive power of ideological alliances, showing how shared authoritarian goals could plunge the world into chaos. Its consequences reshaped the 20th century, costing millions of lives and redrawing global alliances in its aftermath. On May 22, 1972, a glimmer of peace emerged during the Cold War as U.S. President Richard Nixon met Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev in Moscow. Their historic summit produced the ABM Treaty and SALT-Y, landmark agreements limiting ballistic missile defenses and freezing strategic missile arsenals. Amid the nuclear arms race, these treaties marked a turning point, ushering in a period of détente, a cautious easing of East-West tensions. The agreements didn't end the Cold War, but they slowed the spiraling threat of mutual destruction, showing that even ideological rivals could find common ground to prevent catastrophe. The Moscow summit highlighted the power of diplomacy in averting global disaster, offering a fragile hope for coexistence in a divided world. On May 25, 2020, the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis ignited a global reckoning on racial injustice. A white police officer knelt on Floyd's neck for nearly 10 minutes as he gasped, "I can't breathe," words that became a rallying cry. Bystander footage spread rapidly online, sparking outrage and massive protests across the U.S. and beyond. Under the banner of Black Lives Matter, millions marched against police brutality and systemic racism, demanding reform and accountability. Floyd's death exposed deep societal divides, but also united people across races and nations in a shared call for justice. It forced a global dialogue on inequality, reshaping policies and attitudes, though the fight for equity continues. On May 25, 1961, President John F. Kennedy stood before Congress and set a bold goal: land an American on the moon before the decade's end. This moonshot speech, delivered amid the Cold War space race with the Soviet Union, was more than a scientific challenge. It was a unifying vision. Kennedy's words galvanized the nation, launching the Apollo program, which demanded unprecedented innovation in technology, from computers to materials science. On July 20, 1969, Apollo 11 achieved the dream, with Neil Armstrong's first steps on the lunar surface. The moonshot inspired generations, proving humanity's capacity to achieve the impossible through collective effort, and its technological ripples still shape our world today. The week of May 1925 reveals history's dual nature: darkness and light, conflict and hope. Auschwitz and the Pact of Steel show humanity's capacity for destruction, driven by hatred and ambition. Yet, the American Red Cross and the Moscow Summit highlight our ability to heal and cooperate even in tense times. George Floyd's death exposed deep divides, while Kennedy's moonshot united us in aspiration. These contrasts remind us that history isn't linear. It's a complex dance of opposing forces. Each event teaches us to confront our flaws, nurture our compassion, and strive for progress. As we reflect, let's ask, how can these lessons shape a better future? That's May 19th at 25, a week of stark contrasts in history. Which moment resonated with you? Comment below, like and subscribe to This Day in Time for more stories of humanity's journey.